The Tale of Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who was loved by everyone, but most of all by her grandmother. She had given the little girl a cap of red velvet that she loved so well she never wore anything else. So she was always called Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother said to her, "Little Red Riding Hood, here's a piece of cake and a bottle of wine. Take them to your grandmother. She is ill, and they will do her good." "I will take great care," said Little Red Riding Hood. The grandmother lived out in the wood, half a league from the village, and just as Little Red Riding Hood had entered the wood, she met a wolf. Little Red Riding Hood did not know what a wicked creature he was, and was not afraid of him. "Good day, Little Red Riding Hood," he said. "Thank you, Mr. Wolf." "Where are you going?" "To my grandmother's." "What have you got in your basket?" "Cake and wine for my poor sick grandmother, to make her strong." "Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?" "A good quarter of a league farther into the wood. Her house stands under 3 large oak trees. You surely must know it," replied Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf thought to himself, "What a tender young creature! What a nice, plump mouthful! She will be better to eat than the old woman. I must act craftily so as to catch them both." So he walked for a short time by the side of Little Red Riding Hood, and then he said, "Little Red Riding Hood, see how pretty the flowers are around here. Why don't you look around?" Little Red Riding Hood raised her eyes, and when she saw the pretty flowers growing everywhere, she thought, "Suppose I take grandmother a fresh nosegay." And so she ran from the path into the wood and looked for flowers. And whenever she had picked one flower, she thought she saw a prettier one farther on, and ran after it, and soon was deeper and deeper into the wood. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to grandmother's house and knocked at the door. "Who's there?" "Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf. "She is bringing cakes and wine. Open the door." "Lift the latch," called out Grandma. "I am too weak and cannot get up." The wolf lifted the latch, opened the door, and without saying a word he went straight to the grandmother's bed and devoured her. Then he put on her clothes, dressed himself in her cap, laid himself in the bed, and drew the curtains. Little Red Riding Hood, however, had been running about picking flowers, and when she had gathered so many she could carry no more, she remembered her grandmother, and set out on her way. She was surprised to find the cottage door open. She called out, "Good morning," but received no answer. So she went to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay her grandmother with her cap pulled far over her face, and looking very strange. "Oh, grandmother," she said, "what big ears you have!" The better to hear you with, my child," was the reply. "But, grandmother, what big eyes you have!" she said. "The better to see you with, my dear." "But, grandmother, what large hands you have!" "The better to hug you with." "Oh, but, grandmother, what a terrible big mouth you have!" "The better to eat you with." And scarcely had the wolf said this than he bounded out of the bed and swallowed up Little Red Riding Hood. When the wolf had appeased his appetite, he lay down again in the bed, fell asleep, and began to snore very loudly. The huntsman was just passing the house, and thought to himself, "How the old woman is snoring! I must just see if she wants anything." So he went into the room, and when he came to the bed, he saw that a wolf was lying in it. "There you are," he said. "I have long sought you." Then, just as he was going to fire at him, it occurred to him that the wolf might have devoured the grandmother, and that she might still be saved. So he did not fire, but took a pair of scissors and began to cut open the stomach of the sleeping wolf. When he had made 2 snips, he saw that Little Red Riding Hood shining, and then he made 2 snips more, and the little girl sprang out, crying, "Oh, how frightened I have been! How dark it is inside the wolf!" Then the grandmother came out alive also, but scarcely able to breathe. Little Red Riding Hood, however, quickly fetched great stones with which they filled the wolf's belly, and when he awoke, he wanted to run away, but the stones were so heavy that he collapsed at once and fell dead. Then all 3 were delighted. The grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine that Little Red Riding Hood had brought, and she revived. But Little Red Riding Hood thought to herself, "As long as I live, I will never leave the path and go into the wood."